More times, yeah, I move like life really is on the line. Could I let go of something that's special?
What's going on, good people? It's the Can't Retire From This collective, whatever you want to call us. We up in here. It's Misha Jones with you. We got Tanisha Benson. Hey, Benson. We got Jasmine Dallas here with us. And we got the one, the only Melanie Page as well. The reason why we're all here, really, to be honest. But yeah, it's time for us to gather again. And today we want to talk about some current happenings. Specifically, we got a new administration. Been dealing with these folks for a few months now. And there's these three letters that keep coming up. DEI. I ain't never heard or said DEI as many times in my whole life as I have in the last 2 months. But there's a whole bunch of identity groups and things under that umbrella. But today we want to talk about how DEI affects the women's basketball space, because that's what we hear about, right? So as we know, women's sports are hot. There's literally no way to deny that. There's a recent Deloitte report that projects that women's sports in general is going to earn $2.35 billion globally this year, which is absolutely insane. And women's basketball specifically is a huge part of that pie. It's exploded in popularity. Brands, businesses, sponsors have started trying to get involved. But there's a lot of different players that haven't been in the space before in the space right now. And historically, the women's hoop space is about players speaking truth to power, right? And, we just said power has changed hands. And there's a lot of different people on different sides of that line trying to get involved in the game. So let's talk about what that means for this space. Let's talk about what that means for partnerships, for business moves, and things like that. So first and foremost, folks, let's discuss what brands we've seen athletes and leagues partnered with that we think are doing it right, and what players and leagues should be taking their business elsewhere because DEI principles.
There's a lot of interesting things going on. I think a lot of brands are still trying to navigate this space, especially if they are newer to having these kind of structural policies in place, right? If they didn't really implement things until the 2020, 2021 era, then I feel like they are still on very shaky ground, right? But I do feel like Nike is trying. I thought it was huge to have their all women's Super Bowl commercial promoting like that. But we all know Nike also has gone through some times where they have had some questionable things exposed. But I do think that they are trying to do right by the athletes that they support. They know that they're under a magnifying glass. I think what they are trying to do to kind of create a spectacle out of the moment is in a positive way, right? Like, you took a big moment, Super Bowl, to highlight strictly women in a time and era where the very advancement of women is being challenged. So I'll give Nike their props to kind of jump us off, to be honest, as one of the loudest, I think, brands that are representing women's sports right now.
Nike, it's a mixed bag. Like you said, it's a mixed bag. They've had some
Yes.
lawsuits, some people say some stuff, but also that commercial with all them folks, like you said, that Super Bowl commercial, the college basketball commercials during the season have been amazing. Juju, Page, like, it's been nuts.
Their recent campaign is legit. Like,
Yeah.
and they did it. I will say this too. They've done a great job with that campaign. What is it? How do they say it?
You can't win, so win.
So
Like,
when, yeah. What they've done a good job of too is highlighting their local areas where they're from. So like out here, it's Sophia Smith.
Sophia
Sorry,
Smith.
Sophia. So she's got a billboard out here, and we don't have a Juju billboard, which I think is important because you're talking to the local community while also highlighting that athlete in that in a big way. So I think that's really dope what they're doing. Juju on the side of what's that Hotel Figueroa, downtown LA.
Yeah.
Yo, I left the USC game a couple weeks ago, drove downtown to come home. Literally, Juju is
Dope.
full on the building.
They've been blowing Asia up, because how can you not? Right.
I
So,
mean, if we want to talk about Nike, we can also talk about the fact that but you know what? We're not talking about
we ain't gonna go there. We staying positive on today.
Well, Mel, since you was just talking about the Juju billboard, what brands have you seen athletes or leagues partner with that you dig in?
Sephora, finally a makeup beauty brand that is like really putting their dollars there, and
All over Unrivaled, yeah.
Oh my gosh, unrivaled. I think I saw Toronto Tempo like when they're announcing Monica, like sponsored by Sephora. I was like, yes,
Shout
we
out Monica Rice.
needed that. That's my dog. We needed that because these women are beautiful, and now we kind of have a brand to really accentuate their beauty elements as opposed to us just seeing Dejanay with makeup on in these games and not knowing where she get her makeup, those type of
Hmm.
support aspects of it, I think, are important. And it's finally here. And it took them this long, but now we have a national brand of visibility for these women.
Hmm.
For sure. Benson,
Right.
I saw you make a face. Why you make that face?
I'm gonna stir it just a little bit.
We know you want to.
I'm sorry. McDonald's, I'm a McDonald's All-American voter. And so McDonald's has decided to roll back their DEI program. Here's the problem. I could have swore maybe a couple weeks ago, I saw Angel Reese in a commercial promoting McDonald's. And so where I'm going to stir this up is at this point, I don't trust anybody.
Mhm.
Say that.
I'm not quite sure when the going get tough, where you gonna stand. Right
Mhm.
now, everybody looking at making it rain. So you can support the women now, but when the going get tough and when it get tight, I want to see if you still towing the line. Because it ain't when it's good right now. When it's basketball, yeah, we feeling it. Yeah, we good, we rolling. Okay, wait till we start to see the changes from DEI not happening at the C-suite level, and the coaching level. And when it look a little bit different, we gonna have that same money. We gonna have that same support. I don't know. I don't trust nobody. I can't even no shout out to nobody right now. Because I don't know where they going. The fact that she did a commercial, I know that right now, if I eat a Big Mac, I'm telling you, I'm out for 2 weeks. Done. Okay. My diet can't handle no Big Mac, no fry, and no orange soda. I'm telling you right now, I'm done.
That's
My
the over
life,
30 crew right here.
bro, done.
I'm
Done.
crying.
It
I'm
ain't happening.
crying.
But to see Angel Reese on there, I thought a little bit about that Big Mac. Now I got to pull it back since y'all pulling money and they used her during that time. That's tough for me. I don't trust nobody. I don't trust nobody.
That's very real, Benson. And that's kind of the side of the line that I tend to fall on. Angel Reese, she was, I believe, the first women's sports athlete to have her own meal at McDonald's. That's a huge deal, right? In and of itself, that's a huge deal. But what you're pointing out are just inconsistencies, right? And when money is involved, there's a lot of inconsistencies, right? And then, folks, the creatives, the folks like us who kind of operate in this space around here, we're like, but what can we do to continue to uplift people? What can we do to continue to build on the momentum of women's basketball? And so you're pointing out that inconsistency. At the end of the day, them C-suite people, they got the final say. So when you decide you don't like women or queer people or whatever group of people, identity group falling under that DEI umbrella anymore,
gone.
Them dollars are gone. So I'm kind of right there with you because of that. And also because I think there's a lot of new entities coming into the women's basketball space that don't quite understand it in its fullness. So for me, a big example of this is Skims, right? Kim Kardashian, people are loving, that collab. And frankly, the folks who are in that ad that ran at the beginning of the WNBA season and throughout the past season, I loved it, but it reminded me of the early WNBA when all the marketing was about women are hot and they're playing basketball. What about Jonquil Jones? You know what I mean? DMV native, masculine presenting, queer. What about her?
Yeah,
what about
her?
Courtney Williams?
Yeah.
What about all these other folks who are driving popularity? And so to me, that's also another issue. It's like, do y'all actually understand the wholeness, the nuance of all of the people competing within this women's basketball space? And are you going to stand with them when Donald Trump comes and uses them as a pawn in his attack on trans rights, in his attack on gay people, his attack on women, how are you going to move? So I think that kind of all falls in the same bucket you're talking about, Benson. But moving on, we've talked about what we like, what we don't like. So what do you want to see next, especially in the WNBA, in the college hoop space? What collabs would you like to see that you think would be really fruitful right now?
That's an interesting question, given what we just said, right? Because you look at a brand like Ben and Jerry's that has been historically like from the jump, always been very about essentially like DEI before it was called DEI, right? Like they've always kind of been that. However, they have this parent company in Unilever who's really dictating the things, and then you got them trying to buy it back, but it's a multi-billion-dollar company at this point. They can't just buy it back, and Unilever might not let it go in the first place. So now you have this complication, right, where it's not even the founders that's the problem. It is the larger giants that now are really pulling the strings and making making things happen, because the American dream was to build that business and sell it and retire and be cool and just have this company. But now you've altered the whole trajectory of that. So when you have politics within corporate structures like that, it makes it really difficult, because when I first started thinking about this question, I was like, oh, no brainer. Give me some ice cream and a basketball game. But then you had all these different levels, right? You have all these levels within it that you have to consider. But, I actually went into not a player. I actually went into a group that I think is doing a great job with DEI. And again, everybody has they have their things, but Apple has been doing a good job, in my opinion, on standing their ground on DEI. But what I would love to see is less about players and more about our announcers getting more sponsorships from a company like an Apple. So, give me Drea Carter, Sinead McKay, Elle Duncan, give them an Apple sponsorship, because their job is to analyze the game, right? And they can use that technology so that it makes sense from a brand and usage standpoint. And then let me see that collaboration, and give me that to say, okay, not only are these some of the best announcers, period, not just in women's basketball, there's some of the best announcers, period, but they use that kind of technology in order to do their job. And so, like, let's make that marriage happen. Like that, some things like that would be dope, in my opinion. But I will say one other thing that I would love to see is actually, this is going to throw you off for a loop, but remember, I'm a mom. Pinterest. Pinterest has done a good job of standing on their DEI policies, but I also think because where DEI is mostly being attacked is education, it could be very powerful for a brand like Pinterest to get more involved in those type of collaborations, because that is where people still go to for insights, for information, in a way that people, it's not the Twitters, it's all this that are already controversial and people kind of already started to like lean away from. I think Pinterest has kind of held this more nuanced ground, if you will, but they could be a very interesting sponsor in helping to support that kind of information flow. So that was one that I kind of, in my little research, found that I thought could be interesting.
Interest, piquing my interest. I like that. I like that. My only hole in the apple portion of your argument is I need them to stop using them conflict minerals, though. I'm gonna need you to keep your hands off Congo. I said they got some
conflicts. I said they ain't perfect.
Yeah, but like Benson said, I don't know that there is a brand or a company that is at this point, because capitalism, we're all so steeped in it, like each of us individually and collectively, not that we shouldn't try to pull ourselves back out of that hole, but that's a conversation for another podcast. Benson, Mel, what y'all think? What collabs do you want to see?
Me being a child at heart, me being a creative at heart, Lego. I want to be able to build stuff with women's basketball.
Yes.
And also, I think Lego is something that's not gender specific. It's not age specific, especially what they're doing now. And we can create airplanes and NASA and all this stuff. Like, and even as a family, you can come together and create and build stuff. But can we have since Indiana Fever is hot, can we build the Indiana Fever court and have the players on there?
Like I want some dope activations too. I'm just saying.
I want to do that. I want to play with Legos with something that I love.
That's real. I like that.
I like that.
I like you got that written down somewhere.
Yeah,
hey,
Lego.
Lego.
Hey, Lego. If y'all listening, go ahead and slide us them.
We got the film squad. We got the
literally have the
team.
We have the whole squad right here. We can do it.
Call us.
Yeah. Benson, what about you?
I can't go after those two. Jeez. Seriously? What other collabs do we need? But on top of that, I'm going to layer it up a little bit. One, we need multi-year deals. I'm talking about extended deals. Like if we're going to talk partnership, Legos, here we come, right? I'm cool with those. Pinterest, I'm cool with those. I think those are great companies, but we need multi-year deals. It's the only way to protect the game. I'm cool with anybody that comes, but do not come to the table if we're not talking about years.
Yeah.
Don't give me no 2-year deal with a large amount of money. Doesn't work that way. Give me some extensions of these years so that I can feel a little bit comfortable.
So bigger picture, y'all, we're talking about DEI. We've kind of hit on a lot of the identity groups who are under attack underneath DEI policies through the Trump administration, you know, Black folks, women, queer people, all kinds of people who are not, you know, white men. So how do you think this overall kind of attack on DEI is going to affect the WNBA as a league? And do you think it'll have long-term impacts?
May I go first? Because I brought this topic to the attention of Misha and Britt the other day. And me being essentially a historian of women's basketball, and I have a keen pattern recognition in my brain, looking at the fall off of women's basketball or these professional leagues throughout the years in history, and as we're seeing history repeat itself politically and nationally, globally in some ways, it has me a bit scared about the future and, you know, where things are going. Women's basketball, like as we look at when the WNBA started 96, 97, and it was hot. And then the recession was impending. And that's when we lost WNBA teams. That's when the viewership and all those elements kind of dropped. Not kind of, that they literally fell off a cliff. And we are at that point right now where women's basketball is the hot thing again. And then we look at the political landscape that does not necessarily support the people that women's basketball consists of. So for me, I'm nervous about everything. But yes, that's where I want to lead off at.
Which I think that's a fair statement. And I'll couple that with the fact of like the times right now is very, I think women's basketball as a whole has been grassroots driven this time around. And where before it was very NBA sponsoring this thing. And like, I mean, we've gone deep into it. But one time, Benson, if you go back a couple of times when we recorded, said something that stuck out to me when this question came up, and it was about the fact that WNBA doesn't have an identity. Because what's happening now is it's going to be very hard to put a lid on what you've already opened up, right? From a standpoint of like, you can't quiet your players back down. They didn't say what they're going to say. They're going to keep saying it. Like that reality is very real. And I think social media, for all of its cons, has the pro that like you can't completely quiet what already is here and the community that has been built underneath it. And I think that there's a broader community this time around. I won't say that it is bulletproof by any means, but I do think there's a bit of a stronger foundation this time around, or at least I guess that is my optimistic hope to continue to build from, right? Yes, there is a large swing and we are likely to see some swing back, right? As the dust settles and all of that. But I will say, I think my optimism is trying to pull through on the fact that there is this social uprising that started at a grassroots level that has also powered women's basketball, and hoping that that continues to thrive. And you know, when you look at something like how successful Unrivaled has been and things like that in the midst of all of this. So I'm trying to stay positive on today. The sun is shining in Portland, so I'm just going to leave it there.
Benson?
Yeah, I love the positivity, but it's who's going to sell their soul for the bag. At the end of the day, the C-suite position and authority and power is real. And so when you don't have protection to make sure that it's diverse, that can be a challenge because they dictate so much financially, opportunities, who are they going to look for? And then just having the lens of the different types of people to keep that in perspective. So if the C-suite looks different, if the coaching opportunities look different, we're going to have a different agenda. We're going to look very different. So long term, if we can keep the C-suite and the coaches healthy and diverse and fair and protected and keep that going, I think we'll be fine. If not, we're screwed. Like screwed. But if we can protect that, then I think we can stay as positive. The money will keep flowing. We're going to be good to go. But if they don't protect those C-suite positions and the coaches and the general manager opportunities and things like that, and they think of diversity first, oh man, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Wow. Y'all some smart cookies. I like this. The analysis coming from all angles. It's been another edition of Can't Retire From This. Another sideline story. Another great conversation. Thank y'all for kicking it with us.
That's for basketball.
Good job.